Right. Da 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 da.
Toad took over.
That's how we're getting our levels checked.
It's been one of them weeks.
It's been 3 weeks since we talked to you.
But you didn't notice because we had a backlog. I'm not good at that.
And we have a backlog and attempting to build a website with WordPress and all sorts of fun.
People being gone.
People being, yeah.
And busy.
Busy boys.
Busy.
But that's why we do what we do. That's why we get, well, we
That
don't
is
get
why
paid.
we are the way that we are.
Every time we try to make something fun and entertaining, we make it that way. I know that's
I
kind
don't know that we do. I think we're a usually C tier podcast.
Yeah, at this point,
Yeah.
that's as much as we've earned.
I mean, as with every podcast, the first episode is always the most listened to, and then it sharply drops off after that until you actually get good.
this isn't meant to be any sort of accusation, but what y'all doing?
Well, clearly listening to this podcast.
Thank you
you
very
are
much.
hearing this.
If you're listening to this bit,
Good on you.
thank you. We really appreciate your listenership.
Congratulations, you win our respect.
Undying Love can be unlocked if you become a member of our Patreon,
Which we don't have.
which we have not.
If we had one,
Then you
we do
would.
not.
Someday. Someday.
Someday.
Someday. We have a Patreon if we had enough listeners to justify that. Oh well. Well, it's been kind of a wild couple of weeks since last we recorded. Lent was liturgically the most important thing that's happened, but in the grand scheme of things, probably on the back of most people's minds these days with all of the diseasery,
The beer virus.
the fear.
Uh-huh.
The Junta virus, as a certain priest would like to call it.
What priest would that be?
Cheney.
Cheney?
The Masons are always headed out.
Oh, I'm certain. Yeah. The coronavirus is definitely those Chinese Masons.
Yep.
Yes, of course.
The Chinese Freemasons trying to take down the church and go for his Pope cash.
Raid the secret Vatican vaults.
The secret vaults below the Newman Center, which I guess they did eventually dig up.
Oh. They had to because
yeah.
there's a hole there.
They're building a new one. It's less of a hole
I'm
now.
still not convinced that was actually real.
The tunnels?
I did not see them, therefore they don't exist.
I never
Picture
went in
didn't
there.
happen.
I never went in there.
See,
Did you see
I
the
cleaned that
entrance to
building.
them?
Yes. They were in the furnace room. Covered with 2x6s. No, 4x4s. Most of the time to prevent people from falling into them. There were actually access tunnels for the wiring and I think plumbing as well to a certain extent. Which I never went down there because I am rather claustrophobic and would not.
See, I totally would have, because I had 2 people on this podcast who had keys to the building.
For well over a year and a half.
Yes.
On Nathan's case, and almost 3 years in my case.
I still have keys for the Newman building. It's not the same building.
No, it's a
I
temporary
don't think that
structure.
building has secret tunnels.
No,
No,
not that I've
it's
witnessed.
not that interesting.
No.
I wish it did. Then we could put stuff in there and actually have storage.
Yeah,
space.
and
Yeah.
the monolithic closet of junk.
Oh man,
that is existing currently.
About
is
at
chaos
least-
incarnate.
at least half of the contents of the old Newman Center are now stored in that temporary space. The stuff we couldn't get rid of or throw away that we still needed, but oh well. So
There's been people who-
Welcome to the show.
welcome. We
Welcome.
are the Palladian Papists. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Riley.
Yeah, today
We're coming to you pre-recorded from Domus Nostra
in our basement,
in our
In
basement.
Media
hiding-
Domus Nostra.
Have-
waiting
have
the
we,
apocalypse.
Have we told the people about the story behind the name of our house?
The name of our house, aptly, well, not really aptly, but we chose it. To
What
be
is it?
Domus
Introduce it.
Nostra Emilia Domus Nostrae.
The full name. We call it Domus Nostra for short.
Just for short.
Yes. Which roughly translates to our house in the middle of our house.
That is in reference to an internet video that the three of us find to be very funny. It is the song "Our House," our house in the middle of our street, our house.
It
That
took me a
song.
little bit of restraint to actually say street.
Anyway, they took that song and looped it so it was "Our house in the middle of our house" and just over and over and over again.
Did the
For
Game
10
Grumps,
minutes.
Did the Game Grumps originally make that?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Where's
Because,
the
it
song
has
from?
Barry and Aaron in it. So
It's just a pop song from the, 2000s?
Because I know I heard
Not
like the
2000s.
actual song when I was at a store once, and I was like, my brain could not think of it except for our house in the middle of our house, even though the song was playing at normal.
I ought to know who it is.
It's one of those one-hit wonder bands.
Yep.
At least I think. I have actually no concept.
Is like our house in the middle of our house like their version of like Mom's Spaghetti for Eminem? I mean, Eminem was obviously one of the most famous rappers of all time, but Mom's Spaghetti, I think that video on YouTube has more views than the actual Eminem music video for the original. See, I don't even know the name. Lose Yourself?
Yeah, I think it's Lose Yourself.
Okay.
Okay, it's by a band called Madness
Madness.
from 1983.
Madness.
Okay, that's why I didn't know the name of the band.
For some reason, I thought for a while I thought it was because I've never seen it. I thought it was the theme song for Fuller House.
Full House?
Full House.
Fuller.
Fuller House, I think, was the sequel series to Full House.
Yeah, that's like
It's-
a more
yeah.
recent innovation.
mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's why our house is called Our House in the
in
middle,
the middle
of our house.
because we were like, we should have a cool name for our house.
And then we didn't pick a cool name.
Because the prior residents named it the Tea Tree.
And we're like,
And that's a little too feminine for us. We got
The prior residents being all women,
Yes.
and now the current residents being all men. We wanted to find something a little more manly. So
for
Latin.
Five Guys, we didn't want to call it Burgers and Fries.
no,
We weren't
That
going to
would've
do
been-
that.
It's trite.
too low hanging fruit for us.
Believe
Who?
me, we goes for some low-hanging fruit sometimes.
Yeah, I mean the counter is at least 3 feet below my face.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But and we got one of those little banana hooks.
Mm-hmm. So it's still hanging.
It is.
We haven't tried hanging the oranges from it yet. But
Mm.
actually, if you had a bag of oranges, that'd be easy.
You
I-
could just impale it.
It just occurred to me.
Stick
this
that
joke
orange
could
right in
get really dark.
Oh yeah. if we step into VeggieTales territory,
Anyway.
rip Bob and Larry. Oh,
we
anyway,
we might need to edit that. Okay.
nah.
No. Oh, no. Patented veggie burgers.
I had a sort of frightening moment, and to be completely honest, I don't know if I actually did this, but there was a moment, in one of our podcasts, where we were like, let's go back and edit that.
And then you didn't. You didn't edit that?
I don't think I did, and I cannot remember which episode or what it was, because like I go through and like listen to these episodes to make sure there's no errors before I upload them, right? And although sometimes like I usually do when I listen to podcasts, I'm like doing something else at the same time, so I might have just not noticed when it happened because it's like on the second or third time. So if you know what moment I'm talking about, sorry, it was a slip of the tongue. But at any rate,
I mean, that is like the meta trope of podcasts these days. is to say edit that out and then not edit that out.
Yeah, it's like reverse psychology on yourself.
Just you got to leave those edgier bits in there to
Mm-hmm.
desensitize your listeners.
Yeah, because no one's perfect, even though we're all called to be perfect. But
That's why we're called to be perfect, because we aren't. If we
Yes.
were, we wouldn't have to be called.
and if we weren't called, we wouldn't bother
And we bother.
a lot.
I bother a lot.
By all means, bother the peanuts.
They just
I
don't.
don't mind really.
They just don't care for it. Heck with this bar. Trying to find a good segue, but it's not working.
There is no
There-
segue.
Segway, what's that? I've never heard of
There
that.
is no segue. That would
We're
have been a
not
perfect
talking-
segue for talking about the Matrix.
but we're not.
We're not. Someday we might need to cover at least the first Matrix movie at some point. There's some Christology to be drawn out of there. A little heavy-handed, maybe, but still. The topic of today's episode is, well, it's likely to be the topic of at least 2 more episodes.
Perhaps not sequentially, but
Yeah. The Marvel Cinematic Universe.
so like Iron Man, Captain America, the Avengers, that stuff. Though that
Yeah.
series of movies, which is actually multiple series
All
interwoven
17 of them.
Isn't it
All
more?
17 United States intelligence agencies.
Oh, gosh. Ladies and gentlemen.
The reference has been lost on you, but
Yes.
I believe there's 23.
23.
together.
Yeah.
And counting.
Well, currently, yeah.
I mean,
I
not
suppose-
like it really matters after Endgame at this point.
Is
nobody cares.
is Spider-Man Far From Home the first game after the
First game.
First
the
game.
first movie after the
End
Infinity
game.
Saga?
The first game after End movie.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And is, I believe, the end of Phase 4, like
Yeah.
officially.
Well, the topic of today's episode, I suppose.
We're not going that far yet.
Not yet. We'll get
More
there.
or less.
Don't worry about your Infinity War and Endgame spoilers.
Yeah.
Over a
lot.
year
We
later.
yeah. And if you haven't seen any of these films, Iron Man came out 12 years ago.
You've had time.
Yes.
You have had
We
time
will
to-
not apologize.
Just saying that came out 12 years ago is making me feel like a 90s kid. Like,
James.
Only 90s
Like-
kids remember.
yeah, like that type of thing. Like, technically we were 90s kids.
We were
but
all born
like
in
very
97.
tail end of the 90s. But I mean, like, 90s kids being like,
You are
oh
on
my
this
gosh.
council, but we do not grant you the rank of master.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I feel like the 90s kid trope of
That's
like,
outrageous.
oh my gosh, XYZ was X number of years ago. I feel so old. But yeah, the first Iron Man film came out in 2008. So if you haven't seen it yet, what's wrong with you? It's still holds up pretty well.
Yeah, actually. It's interesting how well it stands on its own, while also being a great movie that sets the tone and the groundwork for the rest of the MCU.
Basically the pilot episode of Avengers, the TV show.
Pretty much, because they were kind of at the time, believe it or not, Iron Man was kind of a B tier character from Marvel, and they were kind of taking a risk making a movie about this B tier hero, but he really was a breakout success.
Yeah.
Kind of almost in the way the Guardians of the Galaxy were. You know?
Almost, yeah.
But like, because they're like C tier, but there was already an established MCU, so.
And they worked so well that they worked them into the main tier of heroes. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves again. The first phase of the MCU, you have Iron Man, which came out in 2008, and then the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, that was soon after.
Yeah, soon
Probably the
after.
Same year.
Same year. There was even a Robert
I
Downey
don't know
Jr.
how well that counts. I mean, it's
I mean,
kind of
I
related.
literally didn't know it existed until last year.
It
So
hasn't-
I would say it does not count.
It's supplementary.
It's
material.
technically canon. I know
Except
that much.
for the fact that it's a different actor for the Hulk,
Right.
but it also has Iron Man and the same General Ross that shows up in later.
And Liv Tyler's character just completely disappears.
Yeah. Anyway,
Anyhow, so you have Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, and then what was the next film?
Iron Man 2,
Iron Man 2, and
then
then
Thor,
Thor.
Thor,
then
yes.
Captain America.
and then the
Then
Avengers.
Avengers.
Marvel's The Avengers.
I think that's the end of phase 1, or I don't know where the
Yeah,
phase is.
I think
phase 1, ends with
it either
Avengers.
ends before or after Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought Avengers was anyway.
So, I guess our goal for our coverage of the MCU, granted this thing's been around for a long time, people have made probably years worth of fan theory videos and that type of thing about discussions, breakdowns. But I guess, and honestly, like these have probably already been covered, but we want to cover it from our angle, I suppose, given our niche in the review sort of culture discussion industry.
We already have these conversations with each other on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
We might as well record one of them.
Every time we're actually a significant number of us together and on a
Marvel
weekend.
comes up.
Yeah. So the main arcs, I guess, or the main aspects we want to cover are the main characters of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, at least for the Infinity Saga, which would be Iron Man and Captain America primarily are the two main characters. And then you have Thor.
Thor, Hulk, and Black Widow kind of go through their own ins and outs throughout the series.
Hawkeye's there.
He's
very
there.
there.
He doesn't have an arc until sort of Age of Ultron and then in Endgame a bit.
Yeah.
A bit.
He shows up in Civil War.
It's hard to have a character arc when you're under mind control for 90% of the movie.
Right, yeah.
In reference to the first Avengers film.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we'll start with Iron Man.
Seems like they thought that was a good place to start. So.
Yeah. Would you like to give a quick recap of the film?
Quick recap.
Not like a Fantastic Mr. Fox me 2 weeks ago.
No, that was a little too much. Okay.
Basically saying the movie.
So, Robert Downey Jr. is a billionaire playboy philanthropist, weapons dealer guy. And he is living the high life, right? Making weapons for the army and making a tons of money.
CEO for his company that his genius dad and his buddy Obadiah Stane founded.
Yeah. So anyway, Tony Stark is one day doing a thing for the army when he gets ambushed by a bunch of terrorists, locked in a jail cell, and told to build for the terrorists a weapon. Instead, him and the other guy he was imprisoned with build the first prototype of Iron Man armor so that he can escape. His buddy dies in the accident, which motivates him. And also, during his escape, he realizes that these terrorists are using weapons made from his company.
Mm-hmm.
So, with this realization and first-hand encounters with the real-life harm his weapons cause, after he escapes, he goes home and shuts down his weapons division and continues to pursue his personal experiment with the Iron Man suit and the power source that it runs on.
The arc reactor.
A fictitious reactor that is actually the only fictitious thing about that movie, because if that existed, Iron Man could actually work.
Yep.
Anyway.
There's also pieces of shrapnel that are trying to work their way into Tony's heart.
Yes, and he has a magnet stuck to his chest that
is powered by a little
powered
miniature.
by that generator.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing that is going on. Anyway, over the course of the film, we realize that actually the Jeff Bridges co-worker, co-owner, CEO guy has been directly dealing with the terrorists, giving them the weapons, and he makes a bigger, meaner Iron Man armor. They smash into each other for a while, and Tony Stark wins and reveals to the world that, yes, he is in fact Iron Man.
Who Obadiah Stane, the guy, also paid the terrorists to kidnap and kill Tony. But they were like, wait, you didn't tell us it was Tony Stark. He's going to build us a weapon now. But anyway. So yeah, that's what happens in Iron Man 1. So I guess sort of a brief recap of, I guess, the themes of that film. There's Tony's...
The biggest theme is, I think, Tony's redemption.
Yeah.
Right? His... Not total redemption, I would say, but more like his
beginning.
initial conversion.
Yeah.
Because he starts in a very spiritually low place.
Mm-hmm.
He's an alcoholic. He's in with women all over the place, right? He's living this kind of devil-may-care life with really
Oodles
no
of money.
regard for anyone but himself,
He makes money with weapons that kill people.
and uses people to his advantage left and right. Right?
Wait, weapons?
Weapons.
Kill people?
They kill people?
What a
I
revolutionary kind.
mean, some weapons are non-lethal for crowd control purposes, but we could get into that debate later.
But upon realizing the severity of things, right? What this does to people,
Literally gets a taste of his own medicine.
he realizes that he everything about himself needs to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
He completely, it's a total 180, and you can see it's hard for him, right?
Mm-hmm. He's an absolute genius who is using his talents only to enrich himself, and he realizes that he can make the world a better place through his abilities.
He realizes that he has a great amount of power, and therefore he must have this great amount of responsibility. They don't use that exact phrasing,
But he's not Spider-Man.
but he's
No.
not Spider-Man. And Spider-Man also isn't Iron Man. So
Right.
Not yet.
not
Yeah.
yet.
You never know. But yeah, so that's effectively Tony's arc from the first movie. And then Hulk happens. I don't think we really need to talk about it because he's...
Hulk happens.
Yeah.
That's all you really need to say
He
about
becomes
it.
the Hulk.
He turns green and he smashes things.
Yes.
and his secret is always being angry.
Yep. He turns green.
And
He-
very large.
Yeah, green and very large, and into Mark Ruffalo eventually.
And
Yeah,
into
he-
Mark-
he changes from Edward Norton to
Wait, the first Hulk movie was not Mark Ruffalo?
No, was that Norton? Wait, have you not seen
I
it yet?
literally told you that I discovered this thing existed last.
Didn't
like
we
this
watch it,
this
though?
past
Or were you
summer.
not there?
may
I
have
was not there.
watched it.
I was
Oh,
not
we
there.
that's right. We went and
Watched
watched
it
it
with
at a
other
friend's
people.
house. Okay, so Riley hasn't seen that one anyway.
Anyway, he changes from Edward Norton to Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah,
Because you
it
know-
wasn't even Mark Ruffalo. The Avengers was his first movie as the Hulk. Anyway, fun facts if you didn't know.
Which is part of the reason I kind of don't consider The Incredible Hulk, but also I kind of...
Anyway, the next film, Iron Man 2, is just sort of kind of a continuation.
Kind of an extension of that, because the villain was kind of created by Iron Man, which is kind of an ongoing theme with his later stuff. As he his father stole the generator technology from this Russian guy's father, and so this Russian inventor guy fights
Wants
Tony
revenge.
because he's mad at him.
Yeah.
War Machine gets a suit and an actor change.
We discover that Black Widow exists.
We talked more to Nick Fury, and that Shield is a thing. So it's kind of just
Slow world building at this point.
yeah.
They don't really get into it until...
It's not exactly the most essential Marvel movie
No.
out there. I mean, it's
It's
fine.
all
It's a
right.
fun time. It's not, and apparently it was confirmed after the fact that there's after Spider-Man got in,
Yeah.
that there's that one kid who has the Iron Man mask who
Yeah. It was Peter
could-
Parker
yeah.
as a kid, little kid,
Anyway,
little boy.
so just more stuff about corrupt businesses and Iron Man trying to better himself and his armor and stuff.
Yep. And then the next film would be Thor. So in the movie, it's basically kind of the classic. I mean, obviously, all these superhero films being hero films follow the hero's journey arc to some extent or another. But Thor is a impetuous, war-hungry, not god from Asgard, which exists. And he...
Which is just a planet.
Yes.
He's like an alien that is super powerful.
Mhm.
And
He has a
stuff.
hammer.
So it's like all the Norse myth characters are aliens that exist on this planet that
Yeah.
have at some point in the past apparently interacted with Earth.
Mm-hmm. And then their mortal enemies are the frost giants on the realm of Jotunheim. Giant blue boys, not Smurfs, ice Smurfs with
Ice Smurfs.
deadly ice Smurfs.
That Ice Smurf could be one of the characters.
But anyway, so they're mortal enemies. They're in a truce now, though. But the day
Thor does some
Loki
stupid things.
or Thor is supposed to become king or whatever, he gets interrupted when the frost giants inexplicably infiltrate the kingdom and cause ruckus. And so Thor gets all mad and he's like, I need revenge for this insult to me. So him and his buddies all go over to the Jotun's planet and try to kill everybody and almost die themselves. And Odin's not happy about it, so he banishes Thor to Earth, takes away his powers, and then he says to and then he's like, "Hey, Hammer, if anybody's worthy, they can pick you up." That sounded wrong. If anyone's worthy, they shall have the power of Thor. So he uses the Bifrost, which is this giant space beam that can transport you anywhere.
Space beam rainbow bridge.
Yep. Or the rainbow bridge that powers the space beam. But at any rate, sends him to Earth in modern day, what is it, like at the time, 2010? 11?
It's modern day 2010.
Yes. At the time, modern day. Where he is hit by a truck driven by Natalie Portwoman. And and her band of ragtag misfit scientist people, with 3 of them. So over the course of the film, Thor, he finds his hammer on Earth, but can't lift it and realizes he needs to learn to become worthy, and that he's been an idiot this whole time. And while interacting and falling in love with Natalie Portwoman, and talking to her about the universe, eventually learns that he needs to, in order to be a good Asgardian Prince King thing, something or other.
Prince King thing, something or other.
Yes, he needs to learn how to sacrifice himself for others' good. So when Loki, who's his mischievous not even adopted brother, who's actually a frost giant himself,
but a midget frost giant.
Midget frost giant that was
That
adopted.
looks like a human.
That was adopted by Odin. He's been manipulating things behind the scenes, and so Odin goes into a coma for some reason, and Loki takes over the kingdom.
Is it because of sadness?
Yeah. He's fallen into the Odin sleep. That's what I need to say more often. Like if I need to take a nap, I'm going into the James sleep. I may not come out for some time. I'm feeling a little down today. I think I'm going to take a long nap on my light bed thing. Anyway, Loki's been manipulating things behind the scenes the whole time, and so he tries to basically get rid of Thor so he can be king. And he was also the one that orchestrated the little Jotun terror attack, I guess, to rain on Thor's parade. So Loki sends this big giant robot beam shooter boy to basically the guy from The Day the Earth Stood Still, or Cyclops, Metal Cyclops. But he sends him to Earth to knock off Thor and get rid of his rival. Blows up the town. Thor's like, okay, Loki, just kill me. Leave these people alone. And then he dies. But psych, he's worthy, so he gets the hammer. Hammer powers magically heal him and give him all his armor, and then he beats the crap out of the robot, beats the crap out of Loki, saves the day. Loki tries to Kermit suicide. Their father wakes up.
Kermit sewer slide?
Yeah. Slides off into space. And happily ever after, Thor and his dad are now, he's like, I understand you now, Father. I hope you're proud of me. And Sir Anthony Hopkins Odin is like, yes, I am proud. That's not what he sounds like. Anyway, that's Thor.
Oh, yeah, and Hawkeye showed up for
Hawkeye showed up for a brief moment. And Agent Coulson.
Well,
Rip Coulson. But not actually. But
yet.
actually, though.
Coulson being one of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, S.H.I.E.L.D. being the government organization.
That also shows up in Iron Man 1.
Iron Man 1.
Sort of imply that there's a bigger thing going on. At any rate, so yeah, that's Thor. Main arc of Thor is learning how to self-sacrifice and not don't be selfish.
That's kind of very similar to Iron Man's story, actually. Don't be selfish and self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's actually Iron Man's whole character arc in general is learning how to self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah. So yeah, those, and then I guess that brings us to Captain America.
Yes.
Somebody else want to pick up the movie recap? I don't want to get carried away again because I could talk for a long time about Cap 1.
Cap 1, the 4 a.m. to 1 p.m. shift at Walmart.
For those of you who don't know.
So it's World War II time in this movie at the beginning.
It's World War II
time.
And Steve Rogers is a skinny little...
History of the world, I guess.
Okay.
History of the world, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anyway, and Steve Rogers is the skinny little sickly guy that really, really wants to join the army because he has a strong sense of justice.
But he's too busy getting mugged.
And beat up, which he could do all day.
Mhm.
But his best friend, James
Not me.
Buchanan Barnes, who goes by Bucky,
Mhm.
is also going into the army, and Steve
Howard.
Rogers
yeah.
wants to be like his friend going into the army, but he can't because he is a 4F.
He's small boy.
But on one of his many times he's tried to enlist, he meets up with a certain doctor guy who is working on a secret government program and enlists him in said secret government program to develop super soldiers from serums and shots and other methods. Steroids, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And out of all the candidates
Wouldn't be the last time.
in the program, despite being physically the weakest, Steve had the strongest resolve. He had he was the most creative problem solver, and he was the most willing to lay his life on the line for his allies.
He's the strongest character.
Overall, the strongest character, right? Because evidently, not only are these steroids for the body, but also they reflect what you are inside in a way, because
They enhance that.
it enhances all of your features,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because, as we learn, there's actually also an evil Nazi, kind of Nazi, but like Nazi faction division guy.
Elrond.
Mr. Anderson guy.
Yeah.
Hugo Weaving.
Yes, Hugo Weaving is an evil German guy
Red Skull
who also is wearing a face mask and
is Nazi.
He's a Nazi guy with a red skeleton head. Anyway, he had previously had a prior version of the serum, and so he's super powerful and also obsessed with like global domination and ancient relics, like a cube from apparently Asgard,
The glowy cube.
glowy blue cube, which he is using to create weapons that are a little too advanced for 1940s time.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, everything about the MCU
Allspark?
Yeah.
is Oddly enough, Hugo Weaving actually voiced Megatron in the first couple
Really?
Transformers films. Yeah,
I did not
You don't
know that.
notice because he barely ever talks, and he's all metal, and really the writing is don't watch those.
Yeah.
Or anyway, he has Allspark making weapons, and so
It's actually called the Tesseract.
it is
For anyone who
Yes.
did not catch
the
that.
Tesseract, or the Space Stone, as we learn later in the series. Anyway, so that's why Captain America is being drafted into this project, and he gets turned into Captain America by said science project in
Mentor
Manhattan,
Dr.
whatever.
Erskine dies
yes,
because of
Because
Hydra spy.
and also because every superhero that has a mentor, the mentor dies. Every hero that has a mentor,
Yeah.
the mentor dies. And if they don't die, they're doing something wrong.
Thorin Okenazi comes out of his submarine and shoots him.
Oh yeah, that's
Thorin Pikachu.
Richard Armitage.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's a
That's the
weird
spy.
bit part. Anyway, so after an initial display of heroics where he beats the Nazi spy in front of a crowd of people,
With his new powers.
he is extended the option to become Captain America to sell war bonds.
Mm-hmm.
Something that he knows is a good thing, but he's like, I don't want to do that. I want to actually help fight the war because that's what I was created to do. That's what I've been convicted to do this whole time. So why can't I?
The serum's been destroyed, so they can't make more super
Right.
soldiers. So there's just him, and they don't want to waste that asset.
So it's either be experimented on in the lab or be the face of the U.S. Army in this campaign to sell bonds.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he's part of the USO show in
Italy somewhere.
And he hears about a group of soldiers that were captured by Nazi Hydra people, and goes rogue to go save them.
Because his friend Bucky be there.
Because it's the battalion his friend Bucky was in. And after saving the day, freeing the people, he starts getting put on more and more missions to take down all the different Hydra outposts, because at this point, Hydra has become the splinter faction of the Nazis that are rising to power and
Going rogue and doing their own thing.
doing their own thing with their laser weapons.
Mm-hmm.
After much of that stuff and more war fighting and shield throwing and the like, Captain America beats the Red Skull. He chases the Red Skull into a hangar full of ships full of bombs, or planes full of bombs, I should say, that are going to go to every major city in the world and blow them up because evil.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets into a fist fight with the Red Skull on his plane with the Tesseract in it. They fight for a bit. Red Skull gets sucked into the Tesseract and sort of killed. Disappears and dies-ish. And Captain America realizes that he can't stop the plane or turn it around.
For some reason.
For whatever reason. So he crashes it into the water in the Arctic.
To save the cities.
To save the cities and stuff. And he freezes, not to death, but to cryosleep, where he is discovered in 2010 times.
Modern day 2010.
In modern day 2010 by S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, the government organization from earlier.
Uh-huh.
And they revive him because that's the thing that he can do because he's super.
Uh-huh.
And he wakes up and he's like, I'm not in the 1940s anymore.
I had a date with a British woman.
Oh, yeah, that was the thing.
Mm-hmm.
That is a part of the movie. He had love interest, which is not
love
surprising,
interest.
but-
Agent Carter, who is a cool British spy lady, who will become important later. Again, sort
somewhat.
of, kind of, ish.
She's a surprise tool. It will help us later.
I don't know if
Anyway.
I'd use that word, but yeah. So that's
generally what happened in Captain America.
yeah. And now we
And
have
His
the Avengers, but we should probably talk about the key
yeah, I was
characteristics.
gonna say.
Ba, ba, ba.
Captain America's thing is he's very, very morally convicted, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has a strong conviction to help people in need.
I don't
to
like bullies.
fight
I don't care where
against
they're from.
Oppression, and to stand strong in the face of adversity.
Mm-hmm.
There's a recurring line in his movies where after being beat up a bunch, he stands back up defiantly and says, I could do this all day.
Mm-hmm.
He's there to stand up for the little guy, which he once was the little guy.
Mm-hmm. He sort of imbibes, I guess, the spirit of the Greatest Generation at the time.
Imbibes.
Or
Embodies.
embodies. Yeah, there
He
we go.
drinks the spirit of the greatest generation.
Glug, glug. Give me some of that Greatest Generation serum. Sorry. We did that for a very specific person's benefit. But, so yeah, that's Cap's main thing. So not long after he wakes up from the ice, Marvel's The Avengers happens. The biggest crossover events that had yet happened in modern day 2012.
In films, anyway.
Yeah. So, Loki, Psyche isn't dead. He comes for the Tesseract, which is in a S.H.I.E.L.D. facility,
Not
and
quite dead.
he steals it because he's getting help from a shady spaceman. And he has this powerful scepter that he uses to kill 80 people in 2 days. But he's adopted, so... and so the Avengers character, you get Thor somehow gets there because space bridge thing got broke in the Thor movie. Iron Man shows up to help out. And then you have Black Widow who's there.
Captain America, who just woke up.
And then
Hulk.
Mark Ruffalo is smart, also Green Man, so they bring him in.
Oh, and Hawkeye was there, too.
Hawkeye was there. He was mind controlled for most of the movie. So they all get together and capture, quote unquote, Loki, who gets into all their brains and makes them fight against each other and escapes. And Hulk is also mad and falls down. They all get split up and beaten up a bit. Coulson dies.
He was one of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents.
One of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, Cap's biggest fan. And then Nick Fury, big S.H.I.E.L.D. eye patch man, uses that guy's
Not
death.
a shield eye patch.
No, but he's the head of
big
S.H.I.E.L.D. and
shield.
eye patch man.
And eye patch man.
Mm-hmm. He uses Coulson's death because they all liked him to, I guess, galvanize them. And S.H.I.E.L.D. is, because of the battle with Loki's people, is kind of taken out of the fight for some reason, even though they're a massive international organization. But anyway, So they all get together to New York because Loki wants to go to New York to keep Loki from opening his sky beam to let in giant space alien army, which he does anyway. And so they fight aliens and learn how to work together because at first they don't like each other very much, especially Cap and Iron Man.
They clash. They butt heads a lot in the series.
But they learn how to put aside their differences and work together to save New York.
They went through the 4 stages of team development. Forming, storming, norming, and performing.
Gosh.
Oh, also, S.H.I.E.L.D. was going to do a big dumb and throw a nuke at New York to stop aliens, and Iron Man's like, no, I'm going to throw that sucker up into the portal and blow them up there, which freaked him out a bit, and that's a big thing in Iron Man 3.
Yep.
But
so yeah, that's and they beat Loki and capture him. He goes back to Asgard. That is the end of phase 1.
And then they got Shawarma.
And yeah, they got Shawarma. So the Avengers are like, we may need you guys in the near future. So they're all a thing.
Oh yeah, and there was a guy in a chair who leaned over and smiled at the camera during the end credit scene.
Purple Man.
He might be a little important later. I don't know.
Purple Man in
Purple
chair.
wrinkly chin man.
Very tastily CGI'd purple chin man.
Yeah, doesn't change a bit between that movie end credit scene and the current multi-million-dollar blockbusters. So yeah, that's phase 1 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it basically lays the groundwork for everything that's to come before. It's basically season 1 of the Great Avengers TV show. And with the Avengers film being the
you could cut
finale.
each movie into 2 episodes, and it would be a show.
Or just be like Sherlock and have like 3 episodes in the season or something like that. 4. But yeah. So overall, I guess we have the individual characters' themes. You have Iron Man, who is sort of, learning to take on responsibility. Captain America, who is sort of responsibility incarnate, almost.
In a way.
And Thor, who's there. Well, Thor is learning how to...
Thor also has a...
he's learning humility.
Yes.
He thinks he's hot stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he is kind of hot stuff, but...
Hulk is coping with the fact that
he's
angry...
He's got a lot to learn. Hulk's thing is acceptance, right? He needs to kind of learn to accept himself for what he is and accept other people's help and learn to let others accept him.
Mm-hmm.
Because his whole thing is he doesn't feel like he fits in anywhere, being big and green when he gets mad.
But it turns out all these other crazy people aren't. They don't exactly fit in either. But together they work very well. With your powers combined, we will form the largest movie franchise of the last 2 decades.
Black Widow and Hawkeye, we don't learn their thing so early on. They're just
Black Widow, she was a former Russian spy, did a lot of bad things, and then Hawkeye
he
brings her
extended
in.
an olive branch to her to join S.H.I.E.L.D.
And she joined S.H.I.E.L.D. to right her wrongs and go right. Yeah. So I guess that's phase 1 right there.
The general impressions is that it's a lot of build up.
Yeah.
You don't get to see much of the payoff of all of this stuff.
It's a whole bunch of
later.
origin stories, right?
Yeah.
It's laying the groundwork for a bunch of characters to build from and grow from, while also,
The bedrock of the franchise, basically.
yes.
So there's not a lot of super cool, interesting analysis to do on it, apart from the individual arcs here.
Right. Which I feel like each film has like a little thing to chew on, and then it's combined with like the rest of the films in the series become an even larger thing to chew on, I guess.
Yes.
So yeah, you have the key arcs we want to focus on, I guess, in our analyses of the Marvel series is that of like Captain America and Iron Man's arcs, and then
Because they
other
grow
characters.
the most and intertwine with each other the most, right?
Yeah.
And they have the biggest comparison and contrast to each other because, generally speaking, Iron Man is a futurist, right? He is constantly reinventing himself, reinventing his armor, trying to better himself, right? He's about moving forward past your failures, right? And becoming better that way. Captain America is almost is very old-fashioned.
Very decidedly steadfast in his beliefs.
Very, almost like, very steadfast.
Grounded in
stubborn.
virtue, as it were.
So where Iron Man wants to constantly change, Captain America wants to constantly stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings them into conflict quite a bit in later...
Personality clashes. Also, Steve knew Tony Stark's dad, Howard Stark, in World War II, and Howard Stark really looked up to Steve. And Iron Man, growing up, didn't get the kind of love he wanted from his father and got sick of hearing about how great Captain America was and stuff growing up. So he sort of resents him a little bit that way.
There's that nuance.
But they learn to set aside their differences and work together when it matters most, despite their differences, and even become friends almost.
At certain points.
Yeah. So yeah, as Catholics, what should we take away from these films? Instead of, because some people would just have it like, oh, it's just another superhero movie. It's just mindless action. There's a little more to it than that, as we found, I guess, over the course of years watching these films.
Well, yes.
Love your children.
Yeah.
Don't make them resent your friends.
Yeah. Even though it's totally a Spider-Man thing, the great overarching Marvel motto almost is, with great power comes great responsibility.
That's like a very heroic motto, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Spider-Man's the first one to really sum it up that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because every hero has a great power or a great commission or something like that, and it's their responsibility to live up to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Superman, he's all about great power, great responsibility,
Yeah.
right?
Self-sacrifice for the good of others.
Yes, he's basically DC Jesus. We can talk about that at a different time.
Yeah. If you ignore injustice.
Well,
That's serious.
That's an alternate universe.
Yeah.
That doesn't count.
So yeah, the truth. Actually, one thing I really appreciated about at least Marvel in modern day 2010s was, for the most part, I mean, with the exception of some bits in Iron Man, pretty good, clean action films for youngsters to watch, as I was a youngster at the time. Watching
depends
them.
on how sensitive the youngster is, but
Yeah.
because I mean, Hugo Weaving taking off his face and revealing that he's like a skeleton man's
Mm-hmm.
can be creepy to some people.
Yeah. But yeah, there's truths in there, pursuing virtues and stuff, redemption, people turning away from their
Conversion.
self-centered ways and learning to sacrifice themselves for the greater good, I guess, is the overarching theme of the first phase. Yeah,
It's all about becoming a hero.
pretty much.
Now, the later phases talk about what you do once you are a hero,
Yeah.
right?
Establishing community as heroes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So
Which
how do we...
We will get into that more, I
Yeah.
guess, because it's not really... I mean, I guess we
There's
can
some crunchy stuff we
address
can get into, but I mean,
about
yeah,
with
basically forming...
respect to the Avengers in particular, because that's really the first moment when the community starts to form.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's more or less forming this community around a common objective that is like a common problem or threat, essentially. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not exactly a Christian model of community, because you're not... It's kind of almost utility based, because
Right.
you're pursuing... You've got this problem and you're sort of forced by necessity to come together to address it. But
Mhm.
after that point is kind of where they start
They
to...
do grow in friendship.
Yeah. So in the midst of that, they don't just make it about the goal
Mm-hmm.
solely.
They learn that they're
They-
much stronger together.
They learn through this process that they kind of...
Draw-
They don't fit with other people, but they do fit with each other.
and they draw the best out of each other
Yeah.
to overcome large obstacles. So that's
Mhm.
something we can learn in our own daily lives. Like, who are the close friends? And
they
this
each
might
have
sound
their
kind of
own
cliche.
strengths and weaknesses that they cover each other for. Right?
Yeah. They work together as a team. So, like, to be a little less 90s cliche about this, I guess as Catholics, we ought to look for greatness is best achieved in small groups, I guess, or not best, but you know what I mean. Find people who make you the best you can be, like draw the best out of you.
best version of yourself.
Gosh,
Thanks, Matthew Kelly.
thanks, Matthew Kelly. Thanks. All right, great. Well,
Yes.
I think that
That should do it.
pretty good first installment of the Marvel Cinematic Universe
I mean,
coverage.
we covered what, 5 movies in the space it took us to cover one movie last time we talked about a movie?
Yeah, because we love a certain movie quite a bit and have watched it quite a bit. But yeah. So yeah, I guess we are
Smash the buttons.
smash the buttons.
All of the buttons.
Like us and follow us at Palapapis on Facebook and Twitter.
Will there be a website by the time this comes out?
This, I believe, will be our inaugural episode, assuming everything works, on our new website. Crap. Let me look at the
http
Yeah, all that stuff.
The
Palladium Papist
www.
at WordPress.com, I think.
I don't
Or
know.
not-
You're
not
the one
at.
who's setting it
You're
up.
gonna-
Hold
Okay,
on,
do
I'll
it.
just
You-
pull it up quick. Give me a s- Yeah, the palladiumpapist.wordpress.com will be the web address.
When it's up.
Yeah, which you can also find on our Facebook page.
Eventually,
So yeah,
we
Facebook-
might pay for a domain.
When we get there. But yeah, no, they're so yeah, like us on Facebook, check out our website, assuming it's up at the point you're listening to this.
Hopefully, we're on
Twitter,
iTunes and Google Play and Stitcher
iTunes.
and all of those fun and lovely places by then
Yeah.
as well.
Yes.
We have been playing on SoundCloud, and if you've listened to us on SoundCloud, thank you. SoundCloud costs a chunk of change to keep running, so don't know if we'll.
We will probably almost certainly be getting off of SoundCloud one way or another.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, just keep an ear to the ground and where you will find us next. But yeah, thank you for listening to our podcast. We're episode 6 now, so we're trucking along. If you know people who you think might like the podcast, please share it with them on Twitter or Facebook or what have you, and
Or just by shoving it in their face.
Shoving it in their
Listen
face.
to this now.
yeah, have them listen to it. So yeah, the Palladium Papists at WordPress.com, at Pala Papists on Facebook and Twitter. Yeah, that's about all we got.
Wait for today.
All right,
That's about time for today. But remember,
God made you special, and He loves you very much. And vegetables don't have immortal souls, kids.
vegetables will be annihilated.
Upon consumption, which will be integrated with an immortal human's body. Not the immortal soul bit. But. All right. Bye.
Bye.